welcome to what is this, podcast 20?
I believe it's podcast 20. Yes, sir.
We have not been on in quite a while. A lot has been going on. It's been a crazy. Everybody knows what's been going on around the nation. It's like every week something changes. But we're back. The Two Old Pirates are back. We hope that you'll enjoy this podcast that we're going to do over the coronavirus. I know people were sick of hearing about it, and then it almost like kind of went away because so many other things were going on, with law enforcement and protests and now statues and stuff. But we want to only fixate on the coronavirus and how it has really, really grown in the last, say, 4 or 5 days, to where things are changing dramatically. Even as we speak right now, there's updates on Twitter about what's going on around the world, in the state of Texas where we're at, and even locally where we're at in the Corpus Christi, Aransas County area. So I want to go ahead and throw it over to Gabriel, and he can go ahead and welcome everybody back.
Well, what's going on, Eric? It's a little late this evening, but I'm glad we're doing this podcast. It's been about, 2 weeks or so that we haven't been able to do a podcast. I know that we talk about wanting to do one daily, but we just haven't gotten around to being able to do that. But I'm glad to be able to doing this podcast tonight regarding the coronavirus. It's now starting to hit us here close to home, here in our communities. You're up in Corpus, I'm here in Rockport, and so I'm ready to get started and talk about stats and talk about where we're at today with this virus.
Yeah, I was going to say, the last time that we came to you, we did not have a whole lot of views on the last one. The audio was horrible. We got back physically into the same room, but the microphones weren't working very well when we were at our favorite place, Small Planet Delicatessen, that we like to go to. That's the Two Old Pirates go-to place in Corpus Christi on Saratoga. Highly recommend them. It's a free shout out for them. But the thing is, we were there. The microphones did not work. It was very, very bad audio, and we did not get the videos or shares. And I actually was kind of embarrassed sharing it with people because I knew it was such a poorly done podcast, but we wanted to get something out to you guys. We did about Corona. We think it's important. Every single person out there has an opinion on it. There are facts that we know. There are innuendos. There's rumors. There's all these different things that go on and stuff. But one thing that I wanted Gabriel to start off with tonight for all the people out there is, since day one when we first started talking about this way back in March, Gabriel had said different things about, well, what about if I bring it home? You could always tell with Gabriel, since he does have a mother who's getting up there in years, that what if he brought it home? He wouldn't be able to live with himself knowing that he's the one who did that. But Rockport is unique in that we never really had any positive tests. And everybody kept on hearing it's like a paradise. Nobody's testing. Well, the thing is, nobody was getting tested. And there's still not enough tests going on and stuff. But they did do some tests. And as of right now, I believe that the mayor of Rockport put out that there's 10 positive tests. Now, in Corpus today is, June 24th?
It is.
I'm getting old. June 24th, there was 210 positive tests in Corpus Christi, where I'm living now. So we went from 51 to 63 to 61 to 100 to 210 in the last 4 or 5 days. So it is ballooned up here, which makes me think in Aransas County, especially Rockport and Aransas, if you were testing everybody, it's much more than 10. If we're getting 200 up here, you probably have at least 10 or 15 a day, but there's no testing going on. They did the one-time test in Aransas County, but to go back to what Gabriel had said, is he kept on saying, but what if you spread it? What if? And there was all these what ifs about what happens if I bring it home. And people that were in the news that were joking about this were almost making people like Gabriel, like, you're worrying too much. It's not that big of a deal. It's like the flu. Nobody's going to catch it. I'd like to turn it over to Gabriel because he's going to give you from the heart about all those things that he said and now what's transpired in his life.
Well, when this first came out, you and I had talked about it, and you were telling me, because you were teaching at that time, and you were staying up with it, I think, pretty much on a daily basis. I was not. And once I started to, hear about this virus, and it just progressively started to get worse. We started to see it come into our country and stuff. And people were saying, there's no vaccine and this thing can really get bad. I started to hear different outlets, news outlets. I just don't listen to one. I read different news outlets. I read different, I read local papers. I read the Washington Post, New York Times. I mean, just LA. I try to get a balance of news. And I started to think, this thing could really get bad. And once I started to get to know more about this virus and how it worked and no vaccine, I started to think, we're going to have to start putting the social distancing and, I'll be honest with you. I don't like to wear a mask. I just don't. But if I have to, I will. And luckily, I go from work and I think I'll go to the grocery store once a week and that's it. I've gone to no restaurant. I haven't gone to the beach. We have a beautiful beach down here in Rockport. I haven't gone to it or anything because the way I understand this virus works is I'm still fairly young enough and I believe I'm in pretty good health where I don't get sick very much. I don't get the flu very much. I can go a whole year and never miss a day of work. And I feel great. So I kind of figured if I get it, in my mind, I think I might be able to I don't think I'll get sick, although I never know, right? But I feel pretty good. But there's people around me like my mom and stuff that are up in age and still in very good health. But, that was my fear at the beginning is that, what happens if I contract this and give it to a family member or a friend? I mean, let's say I go to your house and I give it to you or your wife and stuff. That was my main concern outside of myself is, you may not have symptoms if you continue, because if you feel good Thursday, which is tomorrow, and I don't feel bad, I don't feel sick, I could go hang out with my buddy Eric. We could do a podcast. I could go see my mom, I could go visit my family members, not knowing if I had it. And if I had it and didn't have the symptoms, could I pass it on to a friend or family member that potentially had some underlying health issues and get them sick? That was always my big concern. And this has been back in, a couple months ago that I felt that way. And I always had people telling me, it's just the flu and, it's no big deal. And I was like, well, the flu, we can take a shot. I don't think it's the same. I mean, I would listen to people talk and then I would say, it's not the same. I'd come and lay down, get up the next day and say, but it's not the same. This is a really serious thing. And as I started to see and hear stories about people being sick, and of course back then, hospitals just they didn't have the proper equipment and so forth and so on. And then I started seeing the death tolls, and I was like, man, this is no joke. And I think you and I talked the other day about people were saying, well, it's a conspiracy, and I was like, well, at first people would say, man, it's just a conspiracy. I don't believe that it even exists. And then we started to see the death toll go up. The cases were going up. You started to see the NBA. And I mean, you and I have followed sports since we were kids. For the NBA to shut down and say, you know what, we ain't going to play no more. I mean, they're losing billions of dollars. Okay. The MLB, no more baseball, no more basketball. They shut the sports down completely now for a couple of months. And so when the sports started to go down, the wrestling entertainment, I was like, this is no joke, man. This is not a conspiracy because these people wouldn't shut down. I mean, they talk about George Soros and I said, man, if George Soros can do all this, then I'm scared of this guy because this guy is doing some things that I never thought a human being could do. So when I hear people saying it's a conspiracy, it's fake, it's not, and I still hear that today. I'm like, I don't think so, man. I mean, we can do a lot of things in this country, Eric, but I don't think we can do this. And when you see basketball, you're talking about the NBA, $1 billion organization or MLB that they can't even get the games going on TV and stuff. I mean, they're so concerned. It's not something that I think one person or it's a conspiracy. It's really out there. And so I believe that this virus exists. I believe it can do a lot of damage to a lot of people. And like I said, the main thing is it can spread. And so here recently, the last couple of days, it's hit some people that I know very well in this community. And it's resulted in one person that I've known, for maybe the last, I would say, 50, probably 20 years plus, that is in the hospital right now currently. Still very young in age, but basically fighting for her life. It's out there. So it's one thing to see it on the news daily and know that in other states people are dying and they're struggling, but when you see it here in your own community and you actually know the person and this person's in the hospital and families can't go and see her kids can't go and see her, and elderly people that I know also in my community that have been infected by this. And, through social media, I can, see they post what's going on. And I think to myself, I didn't think it was a conspiracy then, and I sure don't believe it now. And so when people come out, and I think when they started to reopen the economy, which I agree we need to open up the economy. It has to be open. I mean, so I don't disagree. I don't agree that we need to keep it closed, but by opening up the economy, we started to see people down in our beach. I mean, every weekend it's packed, and in our other beaches in the area. And so we start bringing people down from bigger cities, from up north, from different states that come in here. And so I think you and I had spoken, and I said, you know what? It's going to be a matter of time before it hits here. And here we are. And I think it's a big problem. And all we've got really, Eric, is social distancing and wearing a mask. And those things aren't guaranteed. And so when I see people just hanging out, and just disregarding what the health experts are saying, look at where we're at now. Look at where Texas is now. And we're in bad shape, and we're probably going to continue to be in bad shape. And not just a person the story that I just told, but there have been younger people in my community that have tested positive. And like we said, once again, this is something that can be passed. The thing is, you may get it, Eric, and you may be able to never feel a symptom. But if you carry it, you could pass it on to other people that I know, old elderly people that you could pass it on to, that could potentially have an effect on that person or other people that could, result in them being in the hospital or being in the ICU. So I'm not really understanding how people don't take this serious. And even today, people will tell me, oh, it's no big deal. So it's hitting us right in our face. It's slapping us in the face. It's right here. And yet you still got a lot of people, not a few, a lot of people that don't take this virus seriously. It's not going to affect us. We're going to be okay. It's going to go away. And I'm like, I don't know that it's going to go away. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And like how Gabriel said, from the beginning, he'd been very wary about what this virus could do. I have to admit, I was wrong. I was not quite as wary. I was thinking, like how a lot of people were thinking, it's probably going to be like a flu. And then, when we heard about the ventilators being needed and elderly people passing away, and I mean, there's still people that are in retirement homes that haven't seen loved ones in months because it's not a safe thing. But what I wanted to touch on today, after Gabriel went through all that, is now that he knows people that are affected by it, that are in the hospital, that are affected by it. The thing that really pissed me off, and I talked to Gabriel about this before, was that there was a woman, and she said there's like a 98% survival rate. So why should we crash the economy for 2% of the people? Wow, 2%. There's 330 million Americans. What, 6-7 million people dead? That's okay. That's okay as long as the economy's going. There will never be a job. There will never be money that is worth a human life. And people are going to sit there and say, but you need the money to put food on the table. We are the richest, strongest country in the world. If we can't get our shit together to provide for our people during a time of crisis, and we'll let people starve and die out in the streets because people don't want to help out. Come on, we always hear about you don't need welfare. Everybody else just needs to go ahead and just pitch in. And when I heard 2% is okay, can't argue with that. Can't argue with somebody like that. If it's a number to them, and it doesn't matter. I want to go over some of the statistics. On March 7th, when we reported the first batch of positives in the United States, we had 116 on that day. 116 on March 7th. On April 24th, we hit our peak at 39,000 for one day. That's right in the mess of things. 39,000 people tested positive on that day. And then what I did is I went back and I wanted to go ahead and give us a little bit of an idea about what it's been like. And in the last 12 days, the numbers have been between 20,000, and 33,000. And then yesterday we hit 36,000, which was actually the second highest we had ever had since this whole thing started. So I'm sitting there thinking, when we do this podcast, Gabriel's probably going to freak out that way back in April, when we were trying to flatten that curve, we peaked at 39,000 and we've come down. But even with the protest, the riots, George Floyd, everything that's been going on, that virus has still been creeping along. It's still been affecting people, but we took our eye off the ball because these other things over here changed. And so what happened is people said, oh, the virus went away. Look, all these protesters, no virus. No, the virus is still there. It's just we are so 5 seconds, we just go to something else like a dog. Over here, over here, over here. If you would have just stayed on the virus and not worried about any of those things, and you're like, well, that's what the news reported. If you would have just stayed on the virus, you would have seen that it just kept on rolling along. But then it started going up. And about a week ago, it went up to 33,000. We had a dip down to 26,000. Then it went to 31. Then it went to 36. And today we hit 39,000. We actually had more today than in April 24th, which means nothing's getting better. If somebody's telling you we're doing fine, they're lying to you. We're now at 39,000 positive cases. Corpus Christi, 200 positive cases. That's the most ever. The most we'd ever had here in Corpus is like 12. Then all of a sudden it went 50, 50, 60, 60, 100, 200. Now we're just skyrocketing in Corpus and stuff. It's probably going on where Gabriel is right now in Rockport. It's going on all over the South Coast. Last week, with like 5 days ago, there was 2 schools in the area, Falfurrias and St. John Paul II. Those 2 schools shut down their off-season workouts for lifting weights and different things like that. And I was all like, man, my son's got to go to off-season and stuff. You know, he's going to be playing sports next year and stuff. I was nervous. I was like, how do we know he's not going to get it? And, you know, people still sit there and say he's young and stuff. Then today it came out, one after another, boom, 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 boom. By mid today, there was 15 schools in South Texas. It's growing. By tomorrow, it'll be more than 19 independent school districts. But the thing is, so we've seen the climb. We've seen a peak today. So it's definitely got worse. We got the 19 schools. Abbott last week said school will reopen in the fall on schedule. He said it very firmly, like how Gabriel said. But the problem is, if you're peaking now at 39,000, we ain't going down anymore, folks. We're going up. And if we're going up, that's not going to allow, you know, us as educators or coaches or anything to go ahead and be able to do what we want to do. Texas today was the #1 state with most positives. So we had over 6,000 positive cases in the state of Texas, which means you take the other 49, we're #1 in that. So it's spiking in our state, just like how it spiked in New York and we're like, oh, it's on an East Coast thing and stuff. We're now #1. It's not getting better. Abbott's going to have to get his stuff together and realize, what am I supposed to do about this? You know, is it going to be distance learning? What am I supposed to do about the economy? How are we going to keep people having jobs? There's only 2 states that I know of right now that are making it mandatory that you have to wear masks wherever you are at. Not if you're working, wherever you're at. Washington State and California. And there's people saying, I'm a patriot. I have the Constitution on my side. I ain't got to do that shit. At this point, what are you trying to prove about your rights anymore? It's peaking. We're leading the nation. What are you proving? Are you that much of a Billy Badass that you think it's not going to affect you? I mean, Gabriel never acted like a Billy Badass, but he was the first person to sit there and say, but what if I affect somebody? Now, what happens is somebody infected somebody in his family, and there's people in the goddamn hospital. It could happen to anybody. So when it hits home, it's real. But it was always real for Gabriel, and now it's real, if that makes any sense. It was always a real thing to him, and then, bam, it hits. So, you know, it's not something that you play with. We had our first confirmed death, February 29th. In the United States. Today's June 24th. We have 124,000 deaths. And I've heard this over and over and over. Listen to me, people. If you're still watching the video, I want you to hear me. I don't want to hear any more shit about it's just like the flu. Don't want to hear it. Okay? This is different than the flu. If you can find one statistic that shows me 124,000 people within the amount of 3 to 4 months are dead from it, do it. You can't find it. It's not there. The flu doesn't act this way. And now the sad thing is, instead of just saying it's a hoax, it doesn't exist, this isn't real, what are people saying? Oh, those 124,000 people that are dead, they didn't all die from the coronavirus. People are lying about it. Because they'll see a video on YouTube or they'll read some shit off of a stupid website. and they sit there and say, oh, that's real. The number 124, they're still dead. Those people are dead. They're going to be buried. They're not coming back. That's somebody's mom, husband, kid. They're dead. Grandmother, they're dead. It's not a fucking game. Excuse my language. They're dead. They're in the ground. And you're sitting there saying, well, we can splice hairs here. Maybe 80,000 died from corona and the other. Are you kidding me? You don't do shit like that in a time like this. Excuse my language, but I'm really pissed off that people are like, well, it didn't exist. Okay, exists now? Okay, that number's not real. What is wrong with you? How sick can you be mentally to sit there and this is not a political thing. This is not this is just a humanistic thing. How can you sit there and look at 124,000 people and you're going to argue about, well, how many died? Do you just argue just to argue? We're talking about 124,000 dead people. And you're going to sit there and say, we've been lied to. There's 2.4 million cases in the United States. We have 124,000 dead. The conspiracy theories that me and Gabriel have heard and so many people have heard, it was made up. Total hoax. In fact, we heard it from somebody who I think runs he's the president maybe. Okay. We heard it was made in a lab. It's not real. That they're inflating the figures. There's not, 6,000 in Texas. There's not, 39,000. It's just all in figures that they're all lies. It's not real. We've already heard that one. Young people don't get it. They don't catch this. Young people don't get it at all. They won't even have a fever, man. Yeah, we do know that kids are dying from it and stuff. And the final one, remember, it's just a plot. It's a plot to get President Trump out of office. Now, I'm going to bounce this back off of Gabriel. He's not going to go into deep detail on it. But, Gabriel, I want you to explain to the people what we talked about the other day about what it would take for a plot by all 50 states, all businesses, sports, entertainment, everything. They would all have to hate Donald Trump. So we talked about this a little bit the other day, and Gabriel came up with some really, really interesting points about if you think it's a plot to get rid of the president, then you missed the boat a long time ago. So stay on your island because you're not part of America anymore. You've gone cuckoo. Go ahead.
Well, Eric, I think when you and I talked the other night about this, I kind of, when I get some time to myself, I kind of think about conversations I've had throughout the day with people, what I've heard. One of the things I like to do is I ask questions to people that I see. I want to get their thinking. Some agree with me, some don't agree with me. But when I look at things and I hear people talk and they say, man, all of this virus thing, it's all a setup. And I've heard this from multiple people that say it's a setup to get him out. Gabriel, can't you see that? And so I'll take a day or two and and I had people tell me, do you think that's a possibility? And I say, well, anything is a possibility. Anything is a possibility. But let me just kind of think on this. Could this really happen? Well, for this to happen, Eric, I started to see people dying. And I said, man, if this is now let me put my conspiracy hat on. Okay, so I'm going to go on the other side and say, this is exactly what people say. It's a conspiracy. They're just doing this to get Trump out. Okay. So there's over 100,000 people that have died. Dang, somebody's got a lot of power to be able to do this. And a lot of people are playing along. Hospitals that I see, interviews of nurses that I've seen, experts that I've heard from different news outlets are saying, Fauci, who, whether you like him or not, this is probably the leading guy that knows what he's talking about, is coming out and saying this is for real. I mean, I'm going through my head all of the people, experts that say this is happening. I'm like, man, so they had to pay off all these people to say these things that are false. All these nurses who I've seen out there who talk about what they have seen with death in the hospital, that families can come. They're all actors and actresses who have all gotten paid to say this thing because it's a conspiracy. And so I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of people. Who has this power? Well, I've heard the name George Soros. I don't know George Soros or haven't done much research on him. I know he's got a lot of money, but could he have this power to do this? And how did he get it done? Then I heard the NBA and said, well, one guy tested positive. So, hey, you know what? This is serious stuff. We're shutting this thing down. So I'm like, okay, so now the NBA has shut down. Damn, George Soros got some power, man. He was able to get the NBA to play along, then the MLB. So for months now, Eric, we have had no sports to see. And you and I, on a daily and nightly basis, are watching games. We're talking about sports. We've watched sports just year round, right? So I'm thinking, God, man, look at what's happening. We've shut down the wrestling entertainment business. The sports industry has shut down completely. We're talking about billions of dollars that are being lost, but they hate Trump that much that we've got to play along. We've got to get him out. We've got to hurt him. We've got to hurt him. Now you're starting to see players from UT test positive for this virus. People from Clemson, collegiate players that are testing positive. And I'm thinking, man, who's got this power? Does this guy got? If this guy has this much power, I need to meet him tomorrow. I want to know, because I have never seen anybody have this much power to be able to shut down these billion-dollar, sports, NBA, NFL, MLB, where they're in jeopardy of not even having a season. We've shut down the economy. And so when people say, well, we don't believe it, well, then why are we shutting down the economy if it's fake? Why is it that President Trump has a rally but needs people to sign on some kind of paper? Don't hold me accountable. It's fake. We can just have it. We can all just get together. It's fake. It doesn't exist. So when I start putting it all together, how can this be? I mean, it just doesn't register to me that this is even remotely possible because of everything that is happening. I don't think there's one person or people that I know dislike Trump, but they could do this, they could make up this. These people are dying, Eric. They have died. But based on, we're going on months now where this stuff is affecting the economy. People are losing their jobs. People have lost their jobs. Our unemployment rate is sky high. We have no sports to watch. We haven't watched any type of sports, anything, for a few months. When I look at all of the things that are happening, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I actually think this is something that's happening, and I think we need to get on board. And the thing that really scares me about this is that the best we can do is quarantine ourselves for 2 weeks or so, social distance, and wear a mask. Those are the only things that we have available to us right now that can stop the spreading of this virus. Okay, right now we don't have a vaccine that most of us are accustomed to going and getting from the doctor so that we don't spread it or get sick. We don't have that now, and we really don't know how long it's going to take before we get it. And so when these are the only things that we can do, and yet I see thousands of people in the area that don't do that, and weekend after weekend I just see people getting together and barbecuing and stuff. And let me tell you, and I would hope that people, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, it's here. Don't wait until it actually hits a loved one for you to think, oh man, it's really happening. Get out of this conspiracy theory that it's somehow all a hoax, because I don't believe that. And I would welcome you to come on this podcast. If you listen to us on this podcast and you say to yourself, Gabriel's full of shit, Eric's full of shit, and we welcome you to come on to the podcast, because we're not going to dog people. If you don't agree with what we say here, or you think that's just not right, or that's just misleading, or that's not correct, then we welcome you to come on. You don't have to meet us anywhere. You can just, from your own home, you can be relaxed. You can drink a cup of tea, a glass of tea, whatever it is that your favorite beverage, and we can put you on, and you can tell your side. A debate is very healthy. If you don't agree with us, bring your facts and bring your opinion. We're not going to dog anybody that disagrees with us. We're not going to tell you. We're not going to call you names. We're not going to make you feel like you're less than us. Don't feel like you're going to get ganged on, because you're not. We want to hear, I want to hear, and Eric wants to hear the other side. If you think that this is a conspiracy, if you think it is, then come with your facts and come with your opinions. We respect it. We want to make sure at the end of the day, we're all Americans. And I've always said that. If you disagree with what Eric and I are saying, asked to come on the podcast, comment. I'd like to come on over this coronavirus. We're going to put this up. You can just put on there, I'd like to be part of the show. I'd like to come on. We'll get you on. We'll respond back to you. We'll tell you the time that we'll get on if it works for you. And then you can bring your opinion with your facts as to why you think this is a hoax, or whatever the case may be, on anything that we talk about, the Two Old Pirates, on any topic that we talk about. If you agree or disagree, you can come on. But I can guarantee you that we're not going to belittle you. We're not going to talk about your family. We're going to treat you professionally, just the same way that Eric and I would like to get treated. I don't know. So I hope Governor Abbott, if he has to mandate certain things, he's got to do what he's got to do to protect the people of Texas.
Well, we want to go ahead and say we appreciate anybody who stuck around and watched the whole podcast. I've listened to some other podcasts over the last couple of weeks, and me and Gabriel are far from the best podcasters, but I can tell you we're not the worst. I've listened to some other podcasts that have far more followers and far more episodes, and not to put down any other podcasts, but we try to do everything in a professional way. Today there was a little bit more cussing because it's a big deal what's going on about how it's climbing again, and people are still thinking it's nothing. But we try to bring you the facts. We've always said we try to tell you the truth, and just to see that Gregor, our governor today is saying stay inside, don't go outside unless you absolutely need to. From last week saying schools are going to be open, they're just going to open. We need better leadership. We need to know what's going to happen with the students. There's no way that you're going to have students 30 in a classroom have any kind of social distancing. And a lot of people just want to go ahead and have their cake and to eat it too. It's horrible, but like how I said, we're a big enough country with enough money that if we can have wars and we can pay for those things, then we should be able to have enough money to tell people, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about your house. It'll be taken care of. We're going to push the loan back, whatever it takes. But people are going to become afraid again. And they're going to start. I've already heard in Corpus, they're already starting to hoard like toilet paper, milk, things like that, bread, just like how it did in the beginning. It's been going on the whole time. We just kind of like let it go. And we started opening up the beaches and everybody started partying and having good times and going to restaurants and stuff. And now we're here at almost 40,000 new cases today, Texas leading the way. And it's a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day thing. It's not like anybody's planning things out that have told us, the public. So people will still be going out to the restaurants and they'll still be doing whatever. But I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know where it's going to take us. It's not a good place right now. And like I said, I gave you some numbers. And for those of you that are in that small scope of none of this is true, it's all false, we're never going to reach you. And I'm kind of tired of having to try to explain things to people. Sometimes you just can't explain things to people that don't want to hear. So this is going to do it for podcast 20. We hope that you enjoy it and that you share. Please share this for people that your loved ones, your friends, family, anybody that you're close to that, they're kind of wondering about the coronavirus. They're kind of scared. Maybe they haven't heard the numbers. This is not a fear-mongering thing. This is a facts-based thing. And so if you share it with them and let them know, they might be able to see what we have to say, and maybe we can go ahead and let them know that, it is moving up. It is still there. It's not going away. It's like a brush fire it's still been slowly burning, and now the winds have come in and they've kind of sparked it again. So we appreciate anybody who's watched. Don't forget to comment. If you don't like something that we said, let us know. If you love what we said, let us know. Share us on Facebook, share us on Twitter. I'll put up all those things at the end of the video so that you can share us. Two Old Pirates. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram, I think, and we're on Facebook. So there's no reason not to be able to go ahead and reach out to us. And we always reply back. And we appreciate everybody else that will help out in any way. Keep safe, love each other, and peace.
Peace out.